what's going on, guys? I'm Zach. I'm Nick. Today we're going to be talking to you about stilt flips. Nick and I have both been playing Kendama professionally for over a decade. We each have put in well over 10,000 hours into playing Kendama, and together we have over 70 podium finishes at the pro level in Kendama competition. Zach and I's favorite trick has been stilts for the past 7 years, me having done up to 7 stilt flip, 5 quint stilt flips in a row, and Zach getting up to 6, and having done over 100 quint stilt flips himself. Today we're going to be going over how we flip the stilts, the height, the speed, the catch, the grip, and finally, how to progress on any level. All right, guys, let's talk about the grip. First, I'm gonna go into a couple techniques that have not worked for me at all. A lot of people, when holding stilts, either do one of two things. One, they'll hold it with the C of the hand, the C of the web between the thumb and the index finger like this, catching the middle of the spike. So when I try and flip a stilt like this, I can barely get any power, one. And number two, the chances of the spike, this is actually a really short spike, so it's not doing it right now, but the chance of the spike and the cup hitting my hand on the catch and hitting the web of my finger on the catch is extremely, extremely high. This is not an optimal flipping position for me that I found out. I can barely get enough power. It feels super awkward, and catching it is a nightmare as well. This is just setting yourself up for failure in stilts, in my opinion. The second thing that people do is hold the tama with their thumb and fingers completely parallel to each other, completely in a straight line through the tama. When you do this, it's so easy for the spike to hit your finger on the catch of the stilt. The last thing you want to be thinking about when you're doing stilt flips and revving up to do your first single, double, triple, and maybe you're even on your advanced quad, quint flips, or even beyond. The last thing you want to be thinking about is, man, I really hope this spike doesn't touch my finger, or how am I going to get my thumb out of the way? These things are all extra things that are just going to distract you, which is going to be really a big problem because stilt flips take a lot of focus, and the last thing you want to be thinking about is anything but flipping and catching the stilt. What has worked super well for me with the grip is first holding it, tama and thumb, having a diagonal line connecting the two if you were looking at it on the side. Most people do this, holding the tama where the fingers are completely parallel. I like to do this. This not only gives me enough room for the spike to land, my thumb is giving more than enough space for the spike to land, but also gives me a steady, firm grip, a foundation that I can rely on when I'm flipping it, sending 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 flips up into the air. And notice how the C that my hand is making, the C that my fingers are making, is on the side of the tama. Like I said, most people are kind of coming in here. I'm fully straight on. My thumb, I'm looking into the knuckle of my thumb straight down. I can see it when I look down right past the cup from POV. And the fingers, yet again, are going to be kind of you can draw a diagonal line between my index, middle, and thumb right here. My ring finger is acting as support on the bottom, and my pinky is doing nothing at all. My pinky is uninvolved in this entire grip. This is my optimal grip for stilt, the one that has worked well for me for so many years and has helped me be able to do 3, 4, 5, even 6 flips. Once you've mastered the grip, the next thing we can focus on is the technique of the stilt flip. So starting off with the basic stilt flip, the main things you want to focus on are your knees and your wrist. These two components are what's going to make you not only land the single, but the doubles, the triples, the quads, the quints. It's going to help you with all of them. Stilt is a very delicate stall, so the knees, when you're starting out, are going to be what make or break your stilt flip. It's a 3-step motion. You come down, come up, and absorb the impact on the last knee bend. The reason why the wrist is important is because, like I just said, stilt is a very delicate stall. You don't need much force. You don't need much happening here with your arm or your elbow. Most of the force generated is actually going to come from your wrist. This slight movement right here is going to get you all the power you need, the ideal power you need for a perfect stilt flip. It's a very simple tip, but something just as slight as this movement is going to take you very far. And as we progress into higher multiple flips, we really notice the importance of the wrist flick. Compared to the single stilt flip shown here, the more I progress, the more I go up in multiple rotations, you can see how the wrist flick and the tama come more towards me every single time. Once again, this is how I generate all my power for stilts. This helped me get up to 7, and I think it's a really great technique to learn. Going back to the wrist and knees, they act in unison. So for example, from a full body angle as we have here with a quad stilt flip, it's going to look something like this. The moment I came up with my knees, I went with a C shape coming towards me with my wrist, and this generated the foreflip itself. So why exactly is speed important? Well, if the flips are too slow or they don't come around, you have a 0% chance of even landing any stilt flip you try. So that's why, in my opinion, it's always better to go faster than slower. From my personal experience, going slow has led me to try and catch stilts lower down here by my knees, which is going to make it a lot harder to land in the first place, because once you're down here and trying to hold on for dear life, trying to balance a stilt, remember, a delicate stall, the chances of it staying on and you recovering are very, very slim. If the flips are fast enough, I can at least have a chance at landing it on the bevel and being able to balance it out. The first priority is completing all the flips you want, and then from there, trying to find the balance. As for the height, obviously the stilt flips are going to get a little higher and a little bit higher every single time you increase the number of flips. It's going to get a little higher each time, but more than that, where you actually land it is the most important thing. Obviously, if I catch high like this, the flip is going to land abruptly. There's going to be no cushion and no room for me to even land the stilt in the first place. So that's why I recommend the sweet spot right here. So now we're going to be working on actually counting the flips themselves. So singles, doubles, triples, quads, quints, and beyond. When you're starting out, let's say you're just learning singles, just counting them one by one, singles and doubles, is going to work really, really, really well. And actually, this concept works amazingly. It worked amazingly for me throughout every single new rotation of flips that I was learning. So counting like this, 1, and for doubles, 1, 2 in your head, 3s, this could even work really well. 1, 2, 3. It makes it really easy if you have something to go off in your head. Now, when you're approaching quads and quints, this is when I actually changed how I counted the flips to help me improve faster. So a simple tip when doing a quad, for example, instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's really easy to actually get lost at first when you're doing that many rotations, especially for the first time. Instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, I would count 2 doubles. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. I think this helped me a lot because it broke up the flip into a type of flip that I had already seen before, and I just had to identify twice. And for quints, what helped me in the past was actually splitting the flip up into a triple and a double. So I'd count 3 first, and on the descent, I would count 2 down. And the question, is it counting? Is it feel? Is it muscle memory? What is it? That comes up a ton. And in my experience, it's always going to be counting at first. And really what it depends on is how much experience you have with the flip itself. To be honest, these higher number flips, even triples, quads, quints, 6, whatever, these are a mixture of feeling and counting because of how many repetitions that player has done. For me, triples now, it's not like I'm counting 1, 2, 3. I've just memorized what a triple looks and feels like. I like to describe it as memorizing the blur of the flip. Same thing for quad and quint. I don't even count anymore. I just have memorized what the blur, the amount of flips look like, and then with that, the height, the speed, I've memorized what that feels like. So when I am tracking, I'm really only looking at the last flip, the catch. It's because I've put in so much work on flips, not just in stilts, but you're getting this experience whenever you do other flips as well. Jumping sticks, lighthouses, lunars. The more you play around and challenge yourself with these new flips, actually take on the hardship of sucking at first, of really not hitting these almost ever. Your first quad is gonna take a long time, first quint's gonna take a long time, but the more you challenge yourself to hit these high number flips, I know it sounds crazy, but you actually get super, super used to them. Just how you're so used to a single or a double flip already. The same feeling can be acquired for these higher level flips, and that's why I say it's feeling and counting at the same time. So to learn it first, I count first, I split up the numbers. For quints, for example, I go count 3, then 2, and then after doing that for so long, it just becomes subconscious. I'm not counting anymore, I'm just going based off feel. I've memorized what this looks like, and because of that, it takes me less conscious effort to lace and more time spent focusing on the catch itself. Another small detail we want to cover for you guys is the bevel placement under the stilt itself. As you can see, this grip is dead center, straight on. The bevel is in a normal position. This is what I use to do single, double, triple stilt flips. But once I get to 4s, 5s, 6s, and above, I do something like this. I offset the hole ever so slightly to the side, just so the Ken is hanging off just a little bit. It's going to feel like it's barely hanging on for dear life at some point, but once you get used to this, it's going to help you achieve faster flips. It's going to help you get to those higher numbers a lot easier once you get to that skill level. So once again, this is normal grip. When I go for 4, 5, 6, 7s, I offset little by little to the side. The bevel looks like this first. This is normal. This is what it's going to look like when I go for those bigger numbers. Once again, here to here, as I go higher and higher. That's why you always see me adjust my stilts in my videos like this. I'm always readjusting because I'm trying to get
the hole off to the side so I can huck quints, huck sixes, huck sevens, the higher numbers. So for example, if I land a triple stilt flip, I'm going for a 4. I usually set it off to the side ever so slightly. That's why you see my hand adjusting right there, and then I go for it. If you were to come over here, I haven't moved, but if you look closely, the hole is diagonal. It's slanted just slightly for me to get that extra power in my flip. So if you're left-handed like me, you want to offset the spike downwards to the right, like so. But if you're right-handed, you want to do the exact opposite and offset it downwards to the left. Last but not least, some of you may have questions on how to break in your bevel. As shown on screen right now, that's going to be the bevel I'm working with this Kendama. Super, super, super broken in. Amazing for stalls. Every bevel breaks in a little bit differently. However, the best way I've broken in bevels in the past is really 2 things. 1, making sure I'm applying moisture to my bevel very frequently. I like to use my saliva. I just like to lick it. Give it a little dab with the tongue. Maybe tap it a little bit, dab it on your shirt, and you're good to go. Some Japanese players like to bring water spritzers in their bags, tiny ones, where they're about to go for a stall trick, and they go like this to spray onto the bevel. I don't do that, I just use my tongue. And the other common option that I used to do before I used to lick my bevel was to use my sweat. And so what that used to look like was me sweating when outside on a hard Dama sesh, arms sweating, like sweating, I would just dap it up with my Tama like that. But most importantly, number 2 is how frequently you're doing stalls, how frequently you're doing birds and stilts primarily. Stalls have always been a huge part of my play style, and because of that, it's almost been effortless for me to break in a bevel how I really like to break in a bevel, because I'm not really thinking about that as the purpose, I'm just playing and it just happened for me. But as I look back and look at the tricks I used to do, they were a lot of stalls, and one thing I would like to recommend to you all watching are combinations that are very stall heavy that will break in your bevel super fast if done consistently. One combo is just a round bird. You can up this by doing a round bird flip. And then also stilts, stilt over valley, back and forth, and then also stilt over valley, flip to stilt. This is always a really good one that I like. Just repeatedly doing this. And then again, the most important thing here, guys, is the amount of repetitions you're doing with stalls. The bevel is not going to break in just because you wish it to. The bevel is going to break in according to the stimulus that you give it. So around bird flip, stilt over valley, flip to stilt. Doing these for 5 to 10 minute sessions straight, maybe once or twice a day, while again, applying moisture to your bevel consistently, is going to be really potent in breaking in your bevel as fast as possible without making it feel like, okay, all I'm doing is stalls, without giving yourself, freedom to do other tricks. All it takes is 5 to 10 minutes every single day, maybe once or twice a day, and you're golden. And now, as promised, guys, we're going to be showing standards of progression with stilt flips that no matter what level you are watching this video, you can use to bring your stilt game to the next level. The fraction on the side of the screen during these tricks is the amount of times out of 10 attempts that Nick and I recommend you to achieve this trick before going on to the next progression. And if you want to continue your progression of stilts past just flips into different variations and combinations like barrels, trays, backflips, and have measurable standards of these tricks to reach, we have stilts alongside 9 other very, very common tricks in Kendama that we have measurable standards for you guys to reach. Join us in there.